Okay, I told you guys, I promised that we would talk about stress in our group. And I've been thinking a lot about it because I feel like as nurses, we're like one of the most unhealthy groups of people in the world. And I think it all relates to stress. Now, as my life coaching training, part of it was life coaching and part of it was weight loss coaching. So weight loss coaching, I can help people lose weight. That part is really simple. Life coaching is not really about like me telling you how you should run your life. It's me helping you process your life and give you a different perspective, because let's face it, if we're hanging out with our friends are going to jump in there with us and support us, and that's what friends do. If you're mad at your boyfriend or spouse, I'm gonna be in there as your friend like, yes, you should be mad. I can't believe they did that to you. That's ridiculous. You don't need to put up with that stuff. That's what a friend is there for, to really back you. But let's face it, it doesn't really help us deal with our problems. As your coach, I have a different perspective, and I say the things that maybe need to be said, that you don't want to hear, but you need to hear. But anyhow, a lot of it's processing emotions, and emotions are just in our body. They are like waves. They come in waves, like a feeling. It just comes in waves and then it goes. It's like vibrations through your nervous system. That's really all it is. And stress is an emotion that we all feel, but I think that stress is like when we're not dealing with our emotions. Like if you have a really crazy, busy, hectic day at work, and maybe you saw some things that really like bothered you, like abuse or just injuries, trauma, whatever. We see stuff every day and we take that in and we don't process it. Let's face it, we just don't process it. Every once in a while we'll go to the break room and cry. Yes. We'll go in the med room and we'll cry, for sure. But we don't really take the time to process through that emotion. We just like pick our girls' skirts up and keep on going, and we can do anything, and we just keep moving on. And that is what is slowly killing most of us. That's what a lot of weight gain is from, because we have that stress, we're not processing it, but we go eat chocolate or whatever pizzas in the break room, and it does help because it gives us dopamine from processed sugars and whatnot. Like it does help, but in an unhealthy way. It doesn't help us long term. Now, I was thinking about this the other day of how I always thought it's just terrible. Like I would come home from work and the next day, then you're jumping right into dealing with your family, your husband, your other real life, your kids. And then you would end up just like screaming at your kids. And then like, why did I just scream at them? They didn't even do anything that bad. So then we like start attacking ourselves. And I think that this all relates back to we didn't process those emotions. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about like what that looks like, because that's such a process emotions. It sounds so like technical and like that sounds great, but how in the world do you practically follow through and do that? Now, I also was thinking, because sometimes you get sad. You can't even pinpoint your emotion, but you're just like sad. And you're like, my life is terrible. I just feel awful and I don't know why. And I figured out a while back that this is just sadness is really just my empathy that I wasn't processing. That emotion of empathy, I think, encompasses so many things in our line of work that when we see that mom with a sick baby, we have empathy. Like our heart hurts as another mom, possibly with children, or that mom that has a child with cancer, and you just have this empathy like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I could survive that. But we tuck it away and we push it on. So we have unprocessed empathy. Now, to process it, you really have to find just a place of solitude where you're by yourself. If it's in your car, in the parking lot, it doesn't matter where, somewhere you're away from everyone else, and you can just process it. And it usually involves crying, because that's a release of that stress and that feeling. But if we go through this process, then we are less likely to later have it back up out of nowhere and like, oh my goodness, I just am screaming at my kids all the time. I just can't handle all this life stress, because we're not handling the very first thing. Things pile up. So to process the empathy or sadness that you're feeling, you just would sit alone and maybe close your eyes and just feel it. Just think about maybe some things that really made you sad. Maybe things that you're like, this is not right. This shouldn't happen to people. All of that is normal, but we don't always just say it out loud or affirm it to ourselves that what we're feeling is normal. So sit there and just feel it and just start to describe it. Like when I have done this before, I would start to describe the sadness and just how it feels in my body. As I'm crying, that's fine. And just be like, it feels like maybe a tightness in my chest. Maybe it feels like pain in my abdomen, just like the stabbing pain, this awful sensation. Sometimes it'll be like a headache, neck pain, like it's coming out in physical formats because we haven't processed it, we haven't released it. So as you can just feel it, you can take deep breaths and say out loud to yourself, like, this is sadness. This is what sadness feels like. It feels like this heaviness in my chest. It feels like a tightness in my neck. It feels just dull or achy or sharp. Just describe it in as much detail as you can. And then just you keep deep breathing, and then pretty soon you're like, okay, has it shifted? Notice when it shifts, because that's what emotions do. They're vibrations in your body, and as you're processing it out, it shifts maybe from your chest to your stomach to your back to your neck. It'll shift around, and really after a couple minutes it dissipates. It does not take as long as we think in our mind to process all of this, but just notice it and cry over it and describe it. You can describe it sometimes as a color, as a texture, like it's thick, it's yuck, it's brown, it's awful. Like you can just describe how it feels and what it looks like inside your body. And then you notice when it shifts, and then you notice when it releases. And that doesn't mean that it's going to release forever, because a lot of these things we've kept in there for a while, so it does come back, and it'll come back the next time that you're in a situation where you're like, oh, the world is so wrong, I can't believe this happened, this is so awful. We have that empathy, which is what makes us good nurses, healthcare providers, is because we have that empathy for the other humans around us. That's what makes us the best. Now, I think that I've been doing nursing for like 26 years, and you start out, you're all gung-ho, and you don't realize that things bother you. And you're just like, I'm in it, I can do all the cancer kids and the chemo and nothing bothers me. And then because you haven't processed it, starts to fill up this well of emotions that are unprocessed. And that's when it overflows and spews into negative things. A lot of times, unfortunately, it turns into like disease processes in us, especially if we start to Google some of our symptoms. We can all have an autoimmune issue of some sort because we're not processing through all of our emotions. So that's one way to process it out and feel it, but then also go to that place of self-compassion, of like, I'm feeling sadness, or it can be anger and frustration. Those are the same. Like, to get it out, the anger and frustration are going to feel different. You're going to describe them, but that's how you're going to process those also. We're just talking about sadness related to stress today, but I can sit there and think, yes, I have this sadness, and it's just an empathy for all the hurting people. And of course, I'm going to have that. I'm seeing these things that other people are not having to deal with, and I want to choose it. I want to choose sadness. I don't want to be joyful when people are hurting. Like, I choose to be sad. I want to hurt when that person's hurting. I want to have empathy. So just acknowledging that these are chosen emotions. Like, I would choose these over the opposite. I don't want to be sad when someone just lost their loved one. I'm choosing to be sad, but I'm also choosing to release it and not take it on as mine. Now, I hope that helps you guys just a little bit. We're going to talk more about it as we go through the next couple of weeks of some things that maybe we need to process through, or just some different perspectives on how we end up actually creating our own suffering and we elevate our own stress. One of the ways is by not processing, and that's what we're talking about today. If you guys have any questions, let me know and I can help you, especially if you have something in particular that you're struggling with, like getting past. Either it could be in your personal life or it can be like something at work. Either one, reach out to me and we can just talk about it and I can give you some tips and maybe help you maybe see a different perspective. I'm not sure what you all need. I just only talk to some of you at times, so I don't know the needs of everyone, but I feel like we're all the same. We're all humans and we all have the same emotions, and we have them for a reason, not to ignore them, but to actually feel them and have a 100% human experience while we are on the earth. Now, I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.